stop this war as much as the Israelis did. I believe the Iranians were getting hit really hard where it hurt. And they needed to stop this war because, yes, they could keep firing missiles, but the question is they're going to run out of generals before they run out of missiles. So I think the Iranians also had to stop this conflict because they needed to do reset. Their air defense was gone. That's the other thing. If you remember True Promise 2, this Pepe Escobar wrote a story about an F-35 that got lit up. When he was like, the Iranians got the best things in the world. They lit it up. The F-35 had to run. A sparrow can't fart over Iranian airspace without being detected and shot down. None of that was true. None of that was true. The Israelis eviscerated Iran's air defense, and Iran was left not defenseless, but exposed. The Israelis were able to put bombs on target anywhere they wanted to in Iran. That's the truth. And if you're the Iranians yes, you're still firing your missiles and you're still doing damage, but the Israelis now have the ability to drop a bomb anytime, anywhere, and they have good intelligence and they're tricking you into doing things. You don't know how they're doing it. The situation's out of control. You have to hit pause. And so the Iranians hit pause too. Now, understand this, that we were literally in panic mode at certain ports when the Iranian missiles are coming in. Our systems were cooking off. Just based upon prior experience, when you start blowing out missiles, going after because what happens is you're trying to solve this battlefield picture of the enemy coming in. And it's not working because next thing you know, 15 missiles are impacting Novatum airfield, and you're going, how did that happen? So you start playing games. There's a whole bunch of smart people in there, all the contractors saying, okay, we're going to remove this shadow. We're going to emphasize this. We're going to try and collect here. And they're tweaking the system. And as they're tweaking the system, they're trying to get better clarity and resolution and such. They'll be speaking in the clear, or they'll forget to change crypto. They'll be doing a whole bunch of things. And the Chinese just sitting there going, whatever the word for thank you is in China, as they're collecting all this data of us on overload, and they're collecting all the technical data of everything that's going on, and they've absorbed it all. And then they're going to do a big data dump. And I think that's what you're going to see. One of the relationships between Iran and China is the big data dump, because it's also in China's interest. Remember this. They made it sound like civilian infrastructure, but they've ignored the fact that their air bases were hammered, that Haifa was hammered, that critical infrastructure was hammered, intelligence facilities were hit. They don't want to talk about that. But the Iranians just buried 30 of their most senior military commanders. And they were killed because Mossad had very good intelligence on the Mossad had penetrated the secure communications infrastructure of Iran and was able to mimic a call that got everybody to appear at one time in one place. And the Israelis dropped a bomb near the end of the war, killed everybody. And from the Iranian perspective, you're taking these blows and you're going, I don't know how to stop this. Yes, we can keep firing missiles, but every day the Israelis, they're finding out where we're at and they're killing us. We need this thing to come to an end until we can reset and move on. The only problem is that we have to overlay that a rational actor. If you're going to lay out a rational premise, then there has to be rational actors that populate this premise. And Donald Trump just isn't a rational actor. This man is such an egomaniac, such a narcissist, that you can't exclude the possibility that much of what he's done over the course of the past week is posturing a game so he can get Barack Obama's Nobel Peace Prize, because that's what this is about, apparently. How does Donald Trump get the Peace Prize? He's set his goal on this. When you go to NATO and you lobby behind the scenes to all the heads of states, nominate me for the Peace Prize, or else I'll be a mean son of a gun. This is what's driving him right now, which means that this isn't serious policy. And he sent 7 B-2 bombers and a number of advanced fighters into war, into combat, so he can get a peace prize. Meanwhile, 600 plus Iranians are dead, 27 Israelis are dead, billions of dollars worth of damage has been done. The world almost went critical. So Donald Trump could get a Nobel Peace Prize. And we haven't solved anything. If you take a look at the underlying reasons for this conflict, ostensibly it was about Iran's nuclear program. Russian controlled. They had 99% of it, but there was this one little fortified village complex in the southwestern corner of Luhansk that was holding on for dear life. And the Russians having a hard time cracking it, but it's cracked. So Russia now occupies all of Luhansk. And in doing so, they fractured yet another defensive line, and you're going to start to see the Russians start to roll up that defensive line and continue. It's what's been happening all along the lines. There was some Ukrainian counterattacks. They get beaten back, but by and large, the Russians are just advancing, and the Ukrainians are getting weaker and weaker. It's curious. Syrskyi, the general, came out and he's trying to impress people on how Ukraine has evolved. He said, early on, we were doing battalion-sized strong points. But then we said, that's not working for us. So we went to company-sized strong points. And that's not working. So now we emphasize platoon-sized strong points. And that's not working. So we're going down to squad-sized strong points. That's the cornerstone of the Ukrainian defense doctrine, squad-sized strong points. But what he just acknowledged is that Ukraine no longer has the ability to do battalion-sized defensive operations. Yes, the war has changed. The drones have changed everything. Again, I talk about this when I talk about Russian assault tactics. Now, Donald Trump can use whatever words he wants to describe the impact of the American obliteration. Is not a technical military term, at least not the one that's normally assigned to battle damage assessments. But he's seeking to create a case that we have eliminated the threat from Iran's nuclear program. And yet he doesn't know where 400 kilograms of uranium hexafluoride enriched to 60% is. He doesn't know what the status of thousands of advanced Iranian centrifuges are. And I'm not talking about the ones that were at Natanz or at Fordo. I'm talking about the ones that Iran has been producing since January of 2021 outside the framework of monitoring of the International Atomic Energy Agency. We don't know how many they produced. We don't know where they are. Now, Iran was under no legal obligation because the United States withdrew from the JCPOA and Europe wouldn't implement it. So Iran also withdrew from it. But if you're going to make the claim that you have everything under control, then you better have everything under control. And we have nothing under control. We don't know where this material is. We've given Iran every excuse possible to actually pursue a nuclear weapon. We haven't retarded that at all. So that's where we are right now with unfulfilled objectives of regime change. They tried it early on. Notice Donald Trump. He brags about the Israeli surprise attack and then immediately implicates himself. Says, yeah, I was part of this. I helped set him up. This is all subterfuge. And then he jumps in with regime change. We don't want to do it, but I know where you sleep. I know where you are. While the Israelis are saying, yeah, we want to pretty much do this thing. And then when the Israelis fail to deliver, he gets mad at the Israelis, angry because, wait a minute, this is supposed to be the knockout punch and you didn't deliver it. And now I'm in a trap. And so he drags this thing out until he finally gets the opportunity to do his grand peacemaking deal. But Khamenei is still in power. The nuclear issue is unresolved. This hasn't gone away. This has just begun. I think the sheep's skin is off the wolf, so to speak. Trump at NATO. Suddenly Zelensky's a good guy. And we're going to start to find patriots to give to Zelensky. And maybe the problem's Russia. And then his words, maybe Russia's the enemy after all. This man is just insane. Literally, we had a brain dead president, meaning brain non-functioning, but now we have a man-child, an ADHD person off his meds who's just bouncing all over the place. You're proof that they're not serious politicians. A serious politician would have challenged Trump as soon as he came off. He said, excuse me, Mr. President, what justification did you have under international law to strike Iran? Have you articulated that? We're not going to get into domestic politics. The politics between you and Congress is a domestic American thing, but we are all members of the United Nations. We'd like to know, did what you do conform to Article 2, subparagraph 4 of the Charter of the United Nations? Have you made a cognizable claim to the Security Council citing preemptive self-defense under Article 51? What was the nature of the imminent threat? And were there any alternatives to this imminent threat before you struck? You mean you were negotiating with them, so you can't make an imminent threat, because these guys are relying upon this man to come to their assistance. If Article 5, the collective self-defense promise made as NATO, is ever triggered. And this man saying he's not bound by anything. He's not bound by international law. He's not bound by the Constitution. And you really expect now that he's going to do what he says he's going to do? And the way you dealt with him isn't that you didn't stand up to him. You just brought him in, called him daddy, and just sucked up to him the whole time. This whole thing was just a Donald Trump glorification charade. Oh, yeah, this is Donald Trump who signed a presidential executive order saying that we don't politicize the justice system.
Yep.
But the moment that Elon Musk started saying, hey guys, this ain't what it seems. This man just squawks and he lies and says, oh, we're going to withdraw all your contracts. We're going to be investigating you. And I would hope that any judge that looked at it went, what are you talking about? So the trigger of your investigation was Elon Musk saying that what you're doing is stupid. And that's what triggered the investigation, because that's what it looks like to me. So Donald Trump is a hypocrite. He's a narcissist. He's an egomaniac. He's an ADHD special needs child. All we need to complete the picture of Donald Trump is a football helmet and a short bus. Stick him in the back seat and let him lick windows, because that's really all he's qualified to do. But now he's the president of the United States, and everybody's pretending that he's the greatest man in the world. Look, the way I view this is that we had two punch-drunk fighters. They were in the ring, and they were just knocking the snot out of each other. But they were both punch-drunk. We can't, as much as Iran was delivering decisive strikes against Israel, and Israel won't acknowledge it. They still won't talk about what's really happened. They put out some figures about destroyed apartments. So suddenly, it's very easy to be a training hero. Men up, fix bayonets, go forward. And the controller comes in and goes, you're dead. Oh, darn, I did something wrong. We're dead. Let's do it again. If it's reality, you're dead means you're dead. It ain't doing it. The Russians already went through that phase, 2022. Now, hopefully they are able to take advantage of this. My dogs are like, yes, don't pause, Iran. Keep fighting. Keep up the struggle. But and everybody, I always love it when people over here, Iran, those chicken shits, they should have kept going. So I just hate these people that are like, Iran should have kept going till the bitter end. They did. And it was pretty damn bitter. What the Iranians did is pause at a time when they can articulate a cognizable case that Israel was hurt. And after all, it was Israel that was calling Donald Trump begging for the ceasefire. I'm not an anti-war person. I don't like war. But if you want to fight, then let's take the fight to the bitter end. And there needs to be a victor. But you also have to understand that I want to win the war. What I don't want to do is fight a battle for Hill 861 and lose 90% of my capabilities taking Hill 861, only to find out that tomorrow the enemy's coming in with reinforcements. I'm going to lose the hill and lose everything I had. Fight smart. And I think the Iranians took a look at the situation and said, this isn't going to end now. How could it? When the U.S. and Israel talking about zero enrichment, and Iran saying, no, we're going to keep it. This thing's going to be on. The real objective, regime change, not the nuclear thing. So people are like, why would China do that? Taiwan? Because the very same missile defense system that Iran is cracking and trying to crack is the one that will be superimposed over Taiwan. And China just won the game. They literally just went, thank you. We now know how you do things. We now know everything, how you do it under stress, under the stress of combat. We know where the overload is. We know what how you respond to countermeasures. We know everything. And so they're not just going to help tweak the Iranian next generation attack, but they're going to make sure that if the time comes for them to strike Taiwan, it's a knockout blow from the beginning, that there will be no campaign, that they have the solution up front. They're doing things that we don't know about. Herein lies the problem. And then we bomb these sites. Now, I'm telling you, as a former weapons inspector of a nation that got bombed, when you bomb something, things get blown up. Israel brags about hitting the Iranian archives, nuclear archives. That means they've destroyed data, they've destroyed documents. So when this is all said and done, and it's going to take a long time for the IAEA and Iran to repair their relationship, if ever. When the IAEA comes back to resume monitoring, there is now a gaping hole of unknowns which are unverifiable. This is the trap that was set for Iraq. How do you prove a negative? Iraq says, you blew it up. It doesn't exist anymore. Prove to me that you had it. You blew up the documents. I don't have that anymore. Then we have to carry out forensic investigations. And now the process goes on forever. Why? Because this is never about the Iranian nuclear program. This has always been about regime change. And Trump and the Israelis are on the same page. Regime change. You can't believe a word coming out of Donald Trump's mouth about wanting to do better, lifting sanctions, this, that, or the other thing, because the man lied. He created a negotiating premise that lulled the Iranians to a false sense of complacency to facilitate an Israeli surprise attack. This level of irrationality, we can't call 5D chess. And there's a lot of people out there saying, this is just genius. Geniuses don't post in all caps. Geniuses don't use words that are meaningless. Geniuses don't react emotionally to every little thing that happens. Spoiled children demand to get their way all the time, or they throw a temper tantrum. Donald Trump is incapable of sophisticated negotiations. He's the greatest businessman in the world, a dealer. He's bluffed his way through a whole bunch of things. Money covers up a lot of sins, and I'll give him credit. He was able to take his father's money, leverage it into things, and then leverage bankruptcy, and it became too big to fail, and he created this illusion that stupid people bought into. But here we are. This man is not very clever when it comes to the complexities of the world. Is it really? It was genius what he did. Genius to bomb 3 empty facilities in a transparent fashion and then collude with the Iranians to receive a non-threatening missile strike so that you can cut a deal with Benjamin Netanyahu to end the conflict, because Netanyahu's screaming on the phone, please make it end, make it end. But it's not genius. Liars behave this way. Dishonest people behave this way. I understand that you in order to play the game, you got to be in the game. I get it. Absolutely understand that. They did a dinner where they all just said, you're the greatest man in the world. There's a reason why we have so much money. It's because Daddy told us to save money. Daddy, you're so smart. Daddy, help us. Daddy this, Daddy that. NATO's a joke, a literal joke. They debase themselves. I'm not pro-NATO at all. I'm actually, to be honest, sitting there going, good. This is the final phase, the debasement phase. And eventually Europe will wake up and realize that NATO is ridiculous. 5%. First of all, that these are verbal commitments. We haven't seen it really. 5%. No. Spain said, hell no.
Yeah.
I don't know if they held out, but even Trump doesn't get to make that call. It has to go to their respective legislative bodies. And there is some pushback around Europe about spending money on defense. They don't know what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. So again, this 5% right now is fictional. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't know how half these economies can afford it. They're basically in default mode as it speaks. It's amazing how much money NATO spends on defense and how little they get from it. You remember in 2022, Pistorius, the defense minister of Germany, and Olaf Scholz said, we need 100 billion euros right now.
Yes.
Right now. We need to build the most vibrant, active military rapid response force, 100 billion euros. Give it to me. They've evacuated critical manufacturing equipment. There are dozens of sites under mountains all around Iran that are evacuation sites that could be readily converted into temporary manufacturing facilities if Iran wanted to pursue a bomb. So the president, again, he put everybody at risk to score some cheap talking points to help promote a Nobel Peace Prize campaign, but he hasn't solved the underlying issue of Iran's nuclear program, which is a problem because now, the president said zero enrichment. Iran says, no, there's going to be enrichment. How do we jump that hurdle? And we even have more complicating factor. The IAEA has been pretty much, the relations between Iran and the IAEA have been suspended for just cause. But do people not understand the ramifications of this? Let me just break it down for you so people get it. Iran had a nuclear program. It was being monitored with some confidence by the IAEA, so much so that Rafael Grossi could go before the international community and say, yeah, I know I wrote that really bad report, but it had nothing to do with weaponization. Actually, there's no evidence that Iran is moving towards a weapons program. And that was an assessment that was fresh at the time Israel bombed. But now Rafael Grossi has to say, we've been notified by the Iranians that they've taken security measures. So I think we're in for another round of fighting. But I'll say this about Israel. They threw away a 10-year intelligence operation, maybe even longer, infiltrating the drone operators in there, getting them in, the drone factories, the whole works. That's gone. 700 to 800 people are going to get hung by the neck until dead over the course of the next couple of weeks. These are all Mossad agents. That network's gone. It's going to be round up. Unless Israel's sitting on another 10-year operation, they decided not to unfold during this effort. The communications, Israel played all their tricks. They played all their tricks against Iran, and it didn't work. And now Iran is able to reset their no more tricks. Israel exposed. The bottom line is, if Israel and Iran start fighting again, there's only so many ways you can fly an F-35 and an F-22, and I think Israel flew them all. The Iranians now know the Israeli bag of tricks, and they are out now working to buy equipment and get assistance rapidly that will enable them to reconstitute an air defense that now is specifically configured to deal with the threats that were exposed in this. My understanding is there were 2 Chinese intelligence collection ships off the coast of Israel during this conflict, and they were collecting all sorts of data, more than we want. It's drone operator, because the Russians have made killing you their number one priority, and they've broken the code. The Russians, using AI, have basically, they collect data on how drones operate, because your drones, you have to come out in vehicles, you have to set up your communications, maybe you do an offset or relay, but then you have to lay out your drones, and then your drones have to take off. And what the Russians have done is they've been monitoring this, and they have pattern analysis. It's what we call patterns of life in the intelligence business. You're looking at what people do, what time they get up in the morning, things of that nature. There's a pattern of life for drone operators. And now what the Russians have done is they've done predictive analysis based upon past tactical performance of the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians come in and they have assets pre-positioned, anticipating something. As soon as they collect something, bam, the Ukrainians say, we have to run. And as soon as they lose their drone coverage, that frontline squad position just became ripe for the picking. And now those Ukrainians are stuck. The Russians start hitting them with the drones. And again, you can be in a drug out position. And the military came out and said, we run out of ammo in 14 days. And they went, oh, we're not going to fight you. No, everything's cool. It's all cool. Don't worry about it. We run out of ammo in 14 days. And that doesn't take into account. That's doing peacetime calculations, rate of fire. No, you run out of ammo in about 5 days, because first of all, you're going to war. That means that your line of communication is vulnerable. So the ammo that you're sending to the front gets hit, interdicted. As you create ammo dumps at the front, the Russians detect it, they hit it, they blow it up. So 60% of your ammo is going to be taken out before it even gets there. And then before units can fire, they fire one round, the Russian counter battery comes in. Oh no, you run out of ammo in 3 to 5 days because everybody's dead. That's the reality. See, the Russians have already solved this problem. The Russians have already built the tactics. Remember, we gave the Ukrainians HIMARS. HIMARS was our secret weapon. HIMARS is our thing where we can reach out and hit precision strike, take out command and control posts, do all this stuff. The Russians are like, thank you. We got them. We can jam them. We can shoot them down.